Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking how a single, honestly pretty little-known company turned a tiny island into literally the most explosive geopolitical flashpoint on Earth. We're going to look at this incredible corporate marvel that acts as the hidden pillar of the global economy and, well, the completely counterintuitive story of the man who actually built it.
Picture this. It's a random day, say March 2026. You're in Taiwan, just a few miles off the Chinese coast. In a single 24-hour period, 26 Chinese military jets, alongside drones and surveillance aircraft, are detected buzzing the island. And the crazy thing? This is just a regular routine. It's a form of constant systematic pressure that's been going on for decades. But the West doesn't just watch this out of democratic solidarity. No, they watch with absolute, undivided attention because of one indispensable company located right there on that island.
$1.7 trillion. That is the staggering market cap of TSMC, the Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing company. Founded by an engineer named Chang, TSMC is responsible for producing the vast majority of the advanced microchips that literally power our entire modern world. So a conflict on this island? It wouldn't just be a localized crisis. It could lead to the total collapse of the global tech industry in a matter of weeks.
Section 1. A life defined by war.
To really wrap our heads around this global choke point, we have to rewind. We need to look at the turbulent life of its founder, Chang. I mean, just looking at his early years, Chang survived 3 distinct wars before he even turned 18. Born in 1931 in Ningbo, China, his early life was just defined by constant displacement. He fled the Sino-Japanese War, then the Japanese invasion of Hong Kong, and finally the Chinese Civil War between the Kuomintang and Mao Zedong's communists. Right as the communists won in 1949, forcing the Kuomintang to retreat to Taiwan, Chang managed to secure a one-way ticket to the U.S. He was desperately searching for stability, and he actually found it by getting into Harvard and eventually earning a mechanical engineering degree from MIT.
So, after finishing his master's, Chang actually unexpectedly failed his PhD qualifying exams. Scratching his original plans, he hit the job market and got 2 offers. Ford offered him $479 a month. Sylvania, which had this budding semiconductor division, offered him $480. Chang actually went back to Ford and asked them to match that $1 difference. When they refused, he chose Sylvania. Think about that for a second. The entire trajectory of global technology, the massive boom of the semiconductor industry, and the balance of modern geopolitics was, quite literally, decided by a single $1 salary difference. Just wild.
Section 2. The reluctant tech visionary.
Chang's absolute obsession with learning thrust him right into the golden age of electronics. He landed at Texas Instruments right around the time Jack Kilby invented the integrated circuit in 1958. And Chang? He was just a phenomenal engineering talent. Realizing he needed to catch up on electronics, he studied obsessively every single night. When Texas Instruments handed him a totally impossible task, like fixing a production line that had a 0% yield, he turned the whole thing around in months. Management recognized his genius immediately, paid for him to get his PhD at Stanford, and he just rocketed up the corporate ladder. By age 41, he was the vice president of their entire semiconductor division.
But then, the whole trajectory just kind of stalled. Texas Instruments moved him to head up the consumer division, pushing stuff like calculators and digital watches. Now, Chang was a pure engineer. He absolutely hated nebulous concepts like brand perception and consumer marketing. He just wanted to deal with measurable, optimizable tech and costs. So constantly clashing with management and feeling totally relegated to the margins, he eventually resigned. After a really brief, pretty unfulfilling stint at General Instrument, he found himself at age 54, genuinely thinking his dreams of being a CEO were completely behind him.
Section 3. The pure foundry revolution.
Okay, let's jump to 1985. Chang receives a phone call that would literally rewrite history. It was from Li Guoqtang, the former economic minister who's widely considered the father of Taiwan's economic miracle. He asked Chang to move all the way to Asia to build a global tech ecosystem out of absolutely nothing. Now, to understand what Chang did next, you have to understand the industry mantra at the time: real men have fabs. Conventional wisdom dictated that any serious tech company had to both design and manufacture, or fabricate, its own chips. Relying on someone else to make your designs, that was viewed as a huge sign of weakness.
But this massive constraint is exactly what sparked Chang's industry-shattering epiphany. He realized that building these fabrication plants cost hundreds of millions of dollars, which was a massive roadblock for brilliant engineers who wanted to start their own companies. So he proposed a completely radical idea. His new company, TSMC, wouldn't design any chips at all. Zero. They would be a pure foundry, meaning they would strictly and exclusively manufacture the chips designed by other companies.
This was a total game changer. By completely eliminating the colossal startup cost of building a factory, TSMC basically gave birth to the fabless revolution. Suddenly, companies could focus 100% on design. Modern giants like Nvidia, Qualcomm, and Broadcom found their absolute perfect partner in TSMC. And it was brilliant because the more these fabless companies grew, the more TSMC prospered. They'd take that money, plow it right back into better technology, which in turn attracted even more clients. It was this massive, unstoppable, virtuous cycle.
Section 4. Powering the modern world.
So, after taking TSMC public and completely dominating the global market, Chang actually retired in 2005 at the age of 74. But, well, the story was far from over. The crucial turning point came in 2009 when he returned as CEO. This perfectly aligned with a monumental shift in human behavior, the dawn of the smartphone era. The iPhone had just launched, Android was spreading like wildfire, and suddenly the world needed billions of increasingly powerful, highly efficient chips. And because these chips were designed by fabless companies, they absolutely needed a pure foundry. So Chang stepped back in to guide TSMC through this explosive new reality.
And by securing Apple as a mega client, TSMC just rocketed straight into the stratosphere. Apple provided gigantic, guaranteed volumes and a constant, relentless demand for the most advanced manufacturing possible. TSMC took those incredible margins and reinvested them into facilities and R&D at a scale that literally left the rest of the industry choking on their dust.
The moat that TSMC built is virtually insurmountable at this point. It's not just about money either. Even with limitless capital, you still need extremely sophisticated machines, thousands of hyper-specialized engineers, and incredibly delicate supply chains. But most importantly, you need the flawless operational execution that TSMC has spent decades perfecting. Replicating this infrastructure anywhere else in the world would take years, if not decades. And that corporate marvel is exactly why Taiwan is now a massive, massive geopolitical vulnerability.
Section 5. The Silicon Shield.
Which brings us right back to those military jets circling the island and the incredibly high-stakes reality of the modern globe. We basically have two completely immovable forces crashing into each other. On one side, the Chinese Communist Party, led by Xi Jinping, views Taiwan through a deeply rooted historical lens stemming from that 1949 Civil War. They see it as a rebel province and an integral, inseparable part of their nation. On the flip side, you have the West. The West views Taiwan as an independent democratic partner and, crucially, the indispensable host of the critical infrastructure that literally keeps the global digital economy running.
And the stakes here are escalating incredibly fast. What started as a Civil War retreat back in 1949 has completely morphed into this high-wire battle over global technological supremacy. In fact, in 2023, former CIA Director William Burns warned that intelligence indicated Xi Jinping had ordered his military to be ready for an invasion by 2027. So we're looking at a situation where a long-standing territorial dispute is now a direct, existential threat to the industrial, technological, and military balance of the entire world.
It's an incredible, honestly kind of terrifying thought. From our smartphones and cloud computing, all the way to the AI revolution and advanced defense systems, the entire trajectory of global technology hinges on this one island, just miles from the Chinese coast. And all of it, this entire sprawling trillion-dollar digital ecosystem, was born from the contrarian vision of an engineer who, at 54 years old, really just wanted a quiet retirement. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it, as we rush headlong into this massive AI future, just how fragile is the foundation we are building it all upon?